Welcome to our next lesson. This one is all about how to plan your trip. At the bottom of this lesson, there is an itinerary planning worksheet that you can fill out if you download this lesson or if you print it out, or you can take notes however you prefer. Now I tend to do Google Sheets for my trips, and then I just keep adding new tabs for each new trip that I plan. So really the main thing you have to figure out when you first start planning a trip is just the logistics, and then everything else can kind of fall into place as you get that sorted out. So here we have each of the four sectors separated like we did for the Discount Travel Secrets course. It makes it easier to kind of compartmentalize and figure out, like, if one portion of this doesn't work, now you can pivot to something else that you were thinking of doing for your trip. I tend to start with transportation or lodging. It kind of depends on where I'm going. Like if I'm using my timeshare points, I start with lodging because my whole trip is going to be where's my timeshare available at the time I'm trying to go. Other times, you'll book wherever. It's just where's the cheapest flight right now off of, my top 5 places that I'm trying to go to. So the first two can be interchangeable, but for the purposes of this, we'll start with looking at transportation. Okay, so for someone that maybe hasn't planned a trip from start to finish entirely themselves, maybe you've been going with your family and just kind of tagging along. Like my husband doesn't plan any of our trips. I get his feedback. I ask, I give him some options, but I look at all the logistics and then we both just kind of decide which one we would prefer. But when you're looking at transportation, you have to figure out how you're getting yourself there and back, the timing of it. For example, when we flew to Maui, we knew we wanted to take whatever the latest flight out back home was going to be so that we could maximize our time there. And same with flights going in. We tried to do when we would fly. I don't really fly anymore, but we would do whatever gets us there the earliest and leaving the latest so we can maximize the amount of time. Sometimes those flights are like crazy expensive. So then you have to look at, like, okay, what's the next best option and just start dwindling it down based off of like what you're comfortable spending or maybe just what's available in general. But then also you have to factor in, like, once you are getting there, like maybe to and from the airport, the logistics of getting to like your hotel or whatever your first activity is. Because a lot of places, if you're traveling during a weird time, you're getting one of those flights that comes in at midnight and maybe it was delayed. If you're paying for like a car service to come pick you up, a lot of times they will do extra fees if it's outside of a certain window of hours, or if it's super early in the morning, they'll charge you something extra. So this kind of goes hand in hand with the last lesson of like what your budget is, to try to adjust the transportation to fit the budget and the logistics of what it is that you're trying to do for your trip. So some things to consider when you're looking at the transportation is how far away is the destination? Is it something that you definitely have to fly to get to? Is it drivable, where it's like you could fly, you could drive? So maybe we'll check out like what both options would be. How much time do you want to spend getting there? That kind of falls into the do I fly, do I drive thing. Like for us, if we were going to DC, Williamsburg, Virginia Beach, anything in that area, that's about 8 hours for us. I don't mind driving that distance because I don't like to fly, but for someone else, they'd rather fly there in an hour and spend maybe 4 hours of their day getting to the airport, being on the plane, getting off the plane, than spending 8 hours driving. So that's also something to consider as well. And then also factoring in the budget to that, how many people are traveling with you. If you're taking your whole family, do you want to buy plane tickets for 5 people, or do you want to put everybody in one car and you're just paying for gas? Also consider any of the loyalty rewards programs that you're part of. So looking at if you have any airline miles to use that could go towards your trip, or any like if you're looking at driving, using the Gas Buddy app and then check what types of gas stations are along the way. Like for example, some gas stations are more regional, So you're not going to have Speedway every single place that you go to. And if maybe that's your rewards and you know you get 5, 10 cents off a gallon, but you know you're not going to have that to where you're going, then that can kind of help you weigh your option of should I drive, should I fly, what will save me the most money while also taking the amount of time that I want to take. And then also just looking at the weather too, that could be a big thing. Like for us, we go back and forth between Ohio and Florida a lot. But planning to drive to Florida in the winter can be really iffy because for us, we would just drive down I-75 and you go through a lot of mountain regions. And so you could have snowstorms. If you're going in the spring, there could be tornadoes through that whole area. They get them a lot. Um, when you're driving 16 hours, that matters a little more than taking a 2 hour flight that will maybe just get delayed and then you'll still be on your way or maybe just going a roundabout way. I also know that some people only do rental cars if they're driving. They won't drive their own car the long distances because you don't want to put like 1,000 miles on your car in just a couple days. So that's also a pricing thing to consider, loyalty rewards programs, things to consider as well. So once you've kind of figured out maybe how you want to get there and how you want to get back, the time involved, the timing that you want to do it, now you can look at the logistics of getting around when you're in your destination. The example that I have here, like if you're going to Disney World, they have transportation everywhere. So whether you drive, whether you fly, it doesn't really matter. Once you get yourself onto Disney property, you can take Disney's free transportation the whole rest of the time. If you're going some off property, then maybe just get an Uber. Or if you're going off property a lot, maybe you're staying at Disney, but you know you're going to Universal and then you're going to SeaWorld and then you're gonna take a beach day, then probably get a rental car because all of that will add up. But other destinations, there's a lot of places that you don't need any sort of transportation whatsoever. There a lot more international places are better with like public transportation. Um, Places like LA, what's annoying is like the public transportation is not good. It's not going to get you anywhere that you need to go. So you need a car, but then you also have to factor in how much it's going to cost to park everywhere, because almost no place has free parking. So the same questions that you kind of have to ask yourself before, like the budget, how you want to, like if you need to get around, like at certain times for something specific that you maybe have tickets for, then consider kind of having your own transportation so you're not relying on like an outside factor. Those are all things to kind of map out as well. Because if you can map out that portion, and it doesn't have to be every little thing. Like say you know you're going to Vegas, the strip is walkable. But if you're going with a group, sometimes you're like, you know what, let's just get like a $15 Uber so we can go to the other end. And if everyone splits it or everyone takes turns paying, you can kind of guesstimate, like, each day you might take an Uber twice, once to some place and then once back. And then that will be like $15 to $25, depending on how far you're going. So you don't have to map out, every little second of every place that you could possibly go, but to just kind of have an idea of what you think it's going to cost. And if it's logistically possible, that's the other thing. This is where your trip plans could break down, is if something's not logistically possible. For example, during COVID, the rental cars just like disappeared. No one had any availability anywhere. So if like when we went to Maui, nobody was there. We had no problems with rental cars. I think it was maybe like a year after or something like that. And so then if you found flights and you're like, okay, this is good. And now you're like, okay, now I'm going to need my rental car because I know I'm going to drive the road to Hana and I want to be able to go around the island. And now there's no rental cars at all. That's when your trip breaks down and maybe you need to pivot to something else or change your expectations for your itinerary. Maybe this time that you go to Maui, you're not going to be driving around. You just get a shuttle to your hotel and you just kind of hang out around your hotel and that's it. Or you're like, no, I need to actually do something with my vacation, so let's try something else. That's why it's important to figure out the logistics of something before you're like if you're doing Disney World, instead of mapping out, here's everything I want to do at Disney, and then looking if it's logistically possible to like fly when you want to fly, if hotels are available. Like you should do the things you're going to do last because you need to figure out if you're able to get there and if there's somewhere to stay and then if there's a way to get around. It'll save you a lot of time and not have to backtrack or start from scratch. Okay, so that's it for the transportation part. Obviously, keep that handy because everything else is going to build upon this part. The next thing that you want to look at is accommodations. Once you know when you'll be arriving and when you'll be leaving, you can actually find the hotel nights that you want to stay at if that's where you're staying. Maybe you're camping or road tripping in an RV or something, or even if you're just staying with family and friends, then this part, you're just checking that they're going to be home and will let you stay those days. But some things to consider is the types of amenities that you're going to need, how many people are staying with you, what's your price range, is parking and or breakfast included, the location, and then once you kind of have an idea of what kind of place you're thinking of staying in, then do you have a rewards program that you're part of for this? So for us, we default to either using our timeshare points if we have some points to use. We also get the team member and the friends and family rate for Hilton. So if it's not a place that our timeshare exists, or if we're only staying somewhere for one night, then we will look at Hilton to see what they have available. And we also earn a lot of our points through there. So even if they don't have the discounted rate, maybe we have enough points to get a free night somewhere. And then we just kind of keep working down the list. The next thing I would do after that, if none of those come up with anything, is I'd probably check hotels.com. I like to use that one for hotels since like every 10 nights you get a free night. And, most of the search engines have a lot of the same options. If it was going to be like a larger group, like for my wedding, everyone that came out, they all just rented a house because it was like my mom, my siblings, my grandparents. So there was, I don't know, 10 people or something like that. So it was easier to just get a house with several bedrooms than to try to get like hotel rooms next to each other. So things like that are something to take into consideration. And these two things will kind of, between lodging and transportation, will kind of help you figure out where that falls in your budget. And then that will help you decide what kind of activities you can still fit in and how much you want to spend on food. Since the transportation and the lodging will be pretty set, and then the things that you do and the foods that you eat can be really flexible on your trip. This is also a good time that you can go reassess like what you've established for your transportation plans based off of the location of the hotel that you've chosen. So maybe it's like if you're taking a bus, like what bus stop is closest to you, what's in walking distance. Like maybe you realize you were able to get a hotel like right in the center of town. So you're like, I'm not going to need to have a car because I'm able to walk everywhere now. So then you can take that off of your transportation. Or, like when we went to New Orleans, we stayed in our timeshare and the streetcar picked up literally right outside the front door. And then we were able to take that all the way over to the French Quarter. So we didn't have to use our car at all. And the streetcar is only like a few bucks a day or something like that. So that ended up being really convenient for us and kind of saved a little bit of what we thought we might have to spend to get around. Okay, so now for the more fun part is what you're actually going to do on your trip. For this next step, I recommend researching like everything that you might want to do on your trip. Like you might have this trip in mind, like maybe you knew that you were doing Disney World because you knew you wanted to go to like all four parks and the water parks and Disney Springs. And so maybe we were just like working backwards. But maybe you had a place in mind, like say you want to go to Santa Barbara. You've never been, you know that you want to go because like you've heard good things, but you're not actually sure like what it is that you're going to do when you get there or what all there is to see. So I like to research like every potential option first. Like I'll go to TripAdvisor, I'll Google things to do in whatever place and read a handful of blogs. I'll go to Pinterest as well because they'll give you different blogs will come up at the top of the results than when you Google stuff. So just trying to get an idea of what all there is. I also go to Viator to see what kinds of like tours or like attraction tickets that they have. I'll also check out Go City passes if I'm going to a somewhat major city. I'll see if they have a bundle pass as well. We did those for San Francisco and I think New Orleans and San Diego, I think. And then while you're checking all of these things on your list, once you kind of narrow down maybe what sounds the best for you and what fits in, finding their hours of operation, how far away they are, so then you can see like what all you can do in a day. Like for example, like if you're going to DC, like you have all the Smithsonians, those are all free. You're probably not going to go to every single museum in DC. That would be a lot. But some of the main ones, going to the National Archives, the American History Museum, Natural History, Air and Space, Capitol Building Tour. Like say you want to do all of those things. In 24 hours, you can do all those things. The problem is that these are only open from like 9 to 5:30. So you kind of have a small window of time to try to do as much as possible. They're close together, so you can do that. But knowing that 5:30 is kind of your cutoff from being able to do any of that kind of stuff, you'll have to plan more days if you want to fit all of that stuff in, or narrow down which museums or tours or monuments or whatever are like the most important for you to visit. Oh, another one I forgot to mention was Groupon. I used this one mostly for either like wine tasting rooms. A lot of them will do like 2-for-1s or like wine trail type things where it's like you buy one tasting and you can go to like 3 different places and use it. Groupon's good for that, as well as like whale watching tours in like California and Maui and stuff. That's a good place for that. They also have a lot of like activities if you like the like paint and sip type stuff. Groupon's good for that. Okay, so after you've done all the research part of everywhere that you want to go, you've figured out like the hours that things are open. You've maybe even found that like somewhere that you wanted to go, like Busch Gardens, for example, the one that's in Williamsburg. It's not open every day of the week all year long. There's times of the year where it's like just weekends or it's closed. So if you were like, oh, I'm going to Williamsburg Monday through Friday, and one day I'm going to do Busch Gardens, and then you go to look it up and you're like, oh, they're only open Saturday and Sunday. Now you kind of have to pivot a little bit, maybe change the dates a little bit, or, you know, decide you're going to do that some other time. This is the part to figure all that out. So consider the price of everything, the hours of operation, getting there and back. If you're able to buy tickets in advance, a lot of places will do like up to like 10% off or so if you buy it online in advance as opposed to buying it at the door. Some places sell out and you have to do it in advance. Like you can't show up to DC and be like, can I tour the White House? You have to email your representative or senator. Most of the times it's like up to 90 days in advance, and then they have to find a spot for you, which is very hard to do. Like I don't expect that it will actually happen. There's a small chance that it could though. Check out if there's any like random restrictions or closure, like maybe something's under construction. So like the main thing you wanted to see there is like the exhibit's closed or something. So then you consider, okay, maybe I should go this place another time. This could also be a part where if a lot of your trip was based off of a specific activity you wanted to do, and some part of it is closed or under refurbishment or whatever, this is also where you might have to make a pivot and either plan different activities around what you've already planned or start back from the beginning of, okay, let's find somewhere new. Let's look at transportation, lodging, and then attractions. The other thing to consider here is like logistically fitting it into your trip. If you're doing, you know, the 4 Disney theme parks, you can do them and you can go to all 4 in one day. You can't do a lot if you do it that way. I think the way the parks are set up now, that I would try to do 6 park days. That way you get 1 full day at each park. and then 2 days where you're like park hopping between like to one day to another to kind of get anything that you missed, and then also like a day for the water parks, a day for Disney Springs, and try to like intersperse them so that you have like a little bit of a break. So just like not doing too much, but still trying to fit in like as much as possible. But also, if you're someone that just likes to wing it and you don't really care like what you do, you'd rather just go and see what's interesting to you, then that's fine. You can just skip this part and maybe just write down a budget of how much you're able to spend on activities once you get there. You can also go a step further here if you need some more detailed planning of, now that you know all the activities that you want to do and how much can fit into your trip, actually picking what days you're going to be doing those things. You can add all that to the worksheet and you kind of have to like Tetris everything in, but now would be a good time to do that as well. Okay, so now the final part to consider is food. For some people, it might just be budgeting at this point. Um, I would consider if you're bringing any food with you. So when we do our timeshare stays, we tend to bring some snacks to have on hand for like a small breakfast or a small treat, so that we don't have to go out, every single time that we're hungry, and venture out to get food. So I have some things here to consider for you. Do you eat breakfast? Do you bring your own? Does the hotel offer a free breakfast? Do you want to go out for your breakfast? Do you want to do quick service, table service? And then once you have that, then you can kind of work your way through the whole rest of the day. Lunch, bring your own. Do you like quick lunches? Do you want to sit down and have like a whole experience for lunch? Because maybe somewhere that you're going is like a foodie destination and the food is like a major aspect of it. I'll use Williamsburg again as an example. They have a lot of historic taverns. They can be hard to get into, so that's something you need to plan in advance if you know you want to have a tavern dinner. We were able to get in like day of because the last group didn't show up like at closing, but that's when a lot of people weren't traveling. So now I would definitely recommend like advanced reservations for things that are like that. Or like if you're doing a luau, if you're going to Hawaii, you need an advanced reservation for that. So there's some situations where food you really do need to plan out. What I tend to do for trips is, again, looking at TripAdvisor and Google and blog posts to see what kind of restaurants are like repeatedly recommended. I also look for things that are like historical restaurants or maybe like pop culture popular, for some reason. Maybe it was like in a movie or something like that. I look to see if there's anything like that and then try to figure out when and where that could fit into my trip. Like if it's near another activity. A lot of times restaurants have like weird hours. Like a lot of places, restaurants are closed on like Mondays or Tuesdays. Some places could have a lot of stuff closed on Sundays. So I like to have an idea of like what's good, because if you also just go off of like what you see that looks good, like it could be hit or miss. I'd rather know ahead of time like what's popular, what's not, and what's good and what's not, what's overrated, and then still have the freedom to choose whatever I feel like in the moment, but at least I have like I'm making an educated decision based off of, research that I've done before I traveled. Like there's like my least favorite travel experience would be like having a meal that was just not good. Like wasting a meal while you're traveling when you could have had something so good is like so disappointing. Okay, so last part here, we've done breakfast, lunch, dinner. We've figured out if there's anything that we need to make reservations for. Are there any snacks, any dessert things, food tours? Wine tasting is considered food. I probably would have planned wine tasting when I planned activities, since it's a little more of a drawn out thing, but it can fit into either category. That's kind of the last piece of like any and all food, drinks, whatever that you might need to consume. So if you've been using this worksheet, you can like duplicate this if it's going to be longer than these days. You should have like a category filled in for each thing. I was thinking of showing a Google sheet that I have of my trips, but I delete the tabs once I've gone on the trip so that I don't have so many and I don't have any new ones up. So that is it for how to plan a travel itinerary. I will have a discussion up here on the side. I don't think there's one up here currently, but I'll add a discussion. That way you can ask any questions or add any commentary if found some tool for travel planning that you want to share. Feel free to do that, and I will see you in the next lesson.